I could have actually really did something with this. It was so hard to obtain to be a pro wrestler. It was harder than it is now, for sure. It's still hard, but you know, it's a little bit different now. It was really Maff and Donovan who really trained me. Go get him, Vicious Vicky. And I was like, oh. I'm like, I like that. We're gonna put you at Nico's Rico, so we're gonna make a stable. And I'm like, oh, wish it went longer too. I think there was something there. ISPW is definitely my home. Went in the room, cried for like 2 seconds, and I was like, that's the business, kid.
Call it how I see it, straight talk, no disguise. So the slang dripping, got the truth in my eyes. Might like gavel, every word, lay it down. Coach C in the booth, turn the game all around. Yeah, it's Coach C, he the best for business. It's Coach C, he the best for business. I'm sharp as attack when I call the play-by-play. Every dog got his day, and I make the crowd stay. It's every week we go live on a Wednesday. Dressing so sharp, that's the reason why your friends stay. The youngest in the game to do it, best for business. Coach C is the truth and everybody gonna witness. Love entertainment, you swear it's your destiny. Link with Coach C, we can talk about your legacy. It's Coach C, he the best for business. It's Coach C, he the best for business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another episode of Best for Business. I'm pumped for this one. Vicki Venuto, thank you for joining me.
Of course, man, no problem.
I'm pumped for this one. I was telling you before the interview, and I was telling you prior, like a lot of these old school WrestlePro guys, I was messaging you guys at like 12 years old. So the fact all these years later we can make this happen, thank you for everything.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great story because that's kind of mine. You know, I was on the indies watching all these guys, and then I got to work with them, so I get it.
So how long, you talk about going to indie shows and things like that, how far later on did you decide that wrestling was something you were going to start pursuing?
So I grew up watching it with my sisters and cousins and whatever. So I was 4 years old when I first started watching wrestling. I even got my first injury at like 5 because I went to hit my sister with an elbow drop, and there was like this little hook that for clothes that was like hanging out of the wall, and I went right into my armpit. So I have a battle scar from 5 years old thinking that I could do a elbow drop. But yeah, so it goes way back. I always knew that I wanted to do this, you know, from preschool to elementary school to middle school to high school. It was always, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the answer never changed.
So you decide pro wrestling is something you want to do. You get injuries at 5 years old leading up to it. What age did you decide that pro wrestling is something you're going to start doing?
Yeah, so I went to indie shows when I was maybe like 10 through 12. At the time, I was very close with the Carinos, Justin, Mark. And me and Mark were very close. We were, you know, that was like my first love. So we were always together. And Justin was coming up on the scene, so we would go to all these indie shows as kids. So I would see Shawn Donovan and Damian Adams and Maff and Chris Steeler and like all these guys, Fala, you know, growing up. And so there was actually like a youth clinic that we had done, I think when we were 12. And we had done that with IWF with like Kevin Knight and that whole thing from Nutley. So like I had my first little taste when I was like super young. And then I had some setbacks in my personal life and demons and things that I go through. But you know, it wasn't until I was older and could actually like pay to go to school on my own that I finally did it. You know, my parents tried to protect me. I don't think they fully understood that I could have actually really did something with this. I think back then it was so hard to obtain to be a pro wrestler. It was harder than it is now, for sure. It's still hard, but you know, it's a little bit different now. So I think my parents were trying to protect me from failing, from getting involved in a business, from getting hurt. So you know, when I wanted to graduate high school, I wanted to move to Florida, and I didn't want to go to college. I didn't know that the formula would have eventually been go to college, play the sport, and then you'll get signed by WWE. I thought if I wanted to be a wrestler, I go to wrestling school to be a wrestler. And then I get picked. So I could have went to college. I could have played probably a D1 school. I could have done all that, and maybe
what sport?
I played softball, but I was very good at it.
Nice.
But I had opportunities to go to, you know, schools or whatever. And my decision was to not go to college and to go. I wanted to go to Florida. I still have a printout, FCW back in the day when it was NXT's training ground,
Yeah.
and you could actually pay to go there. So I could.
Wow.
There was a point in time where you could pay to go to NXT. It
Yeah.
wasn't NXT yet, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Florida. I wanted to do that. My parents were like, "No way." Again, they didn't know. They were just trying to protect me. Um, so that kind of, set me back and made me really depressed and whatever. But, um, once I hit, I think 24, 25, I finally was like, hey, I'm going to do this. And I did it on my own.
Was it hard to give up softball?
Yeah, I played in some women's leagues when I had moved from my hometown. I came out here and I played in women's leagues for like 2 years.
Mm,
I still miss it. I still got it, I think, if I really had to.
yeah.
So yeah, I do. It was a huge part of my life from when I was as long as wrestling was a part of my life. So yeah.
Nice. So you finally the destination is that under Pat Buck where you first go?
Yes. That was my first place that I got trained like
Okay.
officially. Pat got brought into WWE pretty shortly after I joined. So he had went to be a producer there, and then it was really Maff and Donovan who really trained me like more so. Pat, I had a good run with Pat for a few months. And then it was really Maff who
Nice.
who who trained me.
When you were there, was it the PWS or was it already WrestlePro
It
or
was
Creator Pro?
WrestlePro.
Okay.
It was WrestlePro. Yep.
When you talk your career, learning from somebody like Danny Moff or Shawn Donovan, is there a lesson or something that sticks out learning from them?
Yeah. So me, I respond well to that old school style of coaching. I liked that.
Yeah.
There was a point in time where a lot of people didn't at the school or whatever, and then things started changing and the climate started changing. But they were very hard on me and I needed that, and to this day, Moff still, tells me how it is. I think for me, I was an athlete. So
Yeah.
when I came into wrestling, I was already bred to be yelled at and bred to be coached to the utmost potential that I could be. So yeah, they were really good coaches. They still are. I don't, I'm not under their tree anymore because I graduated, but um, yeah, they're very good coaches.
And when you look at WrestlePro and especially everyone who's come out of that school, for you originally, how does the idea come for Vicious Vicky?
So Vicious Vicky was actually my best friend Jill. She wrote me a card when I first joined and she was like, "Go get him, Vicious Vicky." And I was
Wow.
like, "Oh." I'm like, "I like that." And
Yeah.
then I ran it by a couple of the guys and I'm like, "What do you think about this?" And they're like, "Perfect." I'm like, "All
Nice.
right." So Jill gets the cake for that.
And then when you look at your career, you've done so much in wrestling, but to you, what would you consider Vicious Vicky's first big opportunity in wrestling?
Oh boy. So my debut was awesome, I have
Okay.
to say. I'll remember that forever. It was really cool. So I was probably like 6 months into training.
Hmm.
And I remember I was, they had like a student showcase battle royal, and I was like told that I wasn't in it, and I was like really bummed. I'm like, what? And like, for months the coaches were like filling my head up with, you're light years ahead of this person and you're this and you're that and build buttering me up. And I'm like, okay, I could do this. Like I was really hyped, like I was always the one at training where like we were all just sitting there like who's gonna go next? And then I would get in the ring and they're like, thanks, Vicky. Like, all right. Like I just kept going and going and doing my best. I was just always ready.
Yeah.
And they told me I wasn't gonna be in the battle royal. And I'm just like, what? Like I was so confused. I'm like, what? I got the gear. I was so excited. And then I think it was KM at the time was like, yeah, you're not going to be in the Battle Royal. We're going to put you in Nikos Ricos and we're going to make a stable. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, this is better. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Like I'm going to be like one of the top guys at the time. Um, so that my debut was awesome. I had to sit in the front row, um, and pretend to be a fan the entire show because it was Nikos versus Bowens for the silver title.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember I was just like, I wore a WrestlePro shirt. I was sitting in the front row. I was talking to the fans, and like no one had any idea that I was like a plant.
Hmm.
But their match was pre-main event, so I had to sit there the whole show and like pretend that like I wasn't involved in the show in some way. So it was
Yeah.
crazy. And then, I was like I had a Bowen sign and I was like, pro Bowens, who I
Yeah.
also grew up with as well. Shout out
Nice.
Bowen. Um, and and then Nikos came up and was like, put your sign down. And then I spit water in his face and he pulled me over the guardrail and he brought me in the ring. And then Bowens tried to save me and then I low blowed Bowens and then we aligned and made the collection, which
Yeah.
essentially formed the collection.
How was your time with the collection? Because I interviewed the Graysons and Nikos, both of them, and they spoke highly of it. Said they wish it went longer, but you guys did some great things for that short time.
Yeah, I wish it went longer too. I think there was something there. I think there was a dynamic that was interesting. You had the tag team, you had the alpha, and then you had the chick, and it just worked.
Yeah.
We worked well together. It didn't. I think shortly after the world shut down too, things were all chaotic at the time. So it kind of just fizzled.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't think there
Yeah.
was a reason why other than that.
How was the pandemic for you when it came to wrestling?
Awful.
Yeah.
Um, that time period of my life was awful, and for everybody,
Yeah.
but for me personally, um, a lot of change had happened, a lot of negative had happened. Not even just the pandemic and people getting sick and all that around me, but also, things in my personal life changing and shifting. People betraying me and just a lot of really wacky things were going on that I'm still recovering from essentially. We're almost 6 years, post that time period. And it was just an awful, awful time period. I would never want to go back to that time period.
Yeah. But I gotta ask you, in 2021, how was your experience overall? I think it's the first time they ever did it. ECWA Super 8, all women's. How was your experience with that?
Yeah, so it was awesome. I was still coming back from being a little down and depressed and just, trying to find myself, but that was a time period that I was in there with like Megan Bean. I didn't get to wrestle her, and I always
Mhm.
wanted to wrestle her. I think she's awesome. Um, but it was cool to be a part of that, to say I was a part of it, and it was at Monster Factory too, which I always hold near and dear to my heart. So it was awesome to have been a part of that for sure.
How did you find out? Just the same email, or how did you find out you were in it?
Yeah, I think they had just reached out and they were like, "Hey,
Wow.
would you want to be in the Super 8?" And I was like, "Yes," just to
Yeah.
say that I was in it at least once would be super cool.
Nice. When you talk companies, for you, ISPW, how does the opportunity originally come for you?
Yeah, ISPW is definitely my home.
Yeah.
I had met Tommy in 2021, I think, 20 or 2020. I had met him, I think post pandemic, I want to say. I think. And he just took a liking to me. We became friends, and ever since, we've just been off to the races. He takes care of me. I owe a lot to Tommy Fierro, in and out of the ring. He's like a brother to me. He takes care of me. He really really has done a lot for me. A lot of connections made. And again, I'm a six-time ISPW Women's Champion. I'm the inaugural ISPW Women's Champion. I was there for the revival show, and I've been a very strong foundation of that company ever since, and I'm very proud of that.
When you talk being a six-time women's champion there, is there a match or moment that stands out from ISPW so far?
Yeah, so with ISPW, it's like just being able to continuously like carry the banner. I've had some fun matches with Tina San Antonio where we had like a ladder match. I'm sorry, a cage match, a blindfold match, a street fight. Me and her have done a lot. We wrestled a lot, but we tried to change it up and do different things. um but yeah, the inaugural show was one of my favorites too, because that's when I won the belt, and my parents were there. They came in the ring, so that was a really nice moment. But ISPW is very family friendly and family oriented, and a lot of regulars, a lot of people who are always there, and happy to give back to them.
Nice. And then when you talk companies, being a women's champ, BCW, I think it's over 638 days. You don't really see those reigns on the independent. So for you, is there a moment or match from that one that sticks out?
Yeah, so I had a really good match with Lena Cross. I
Nice.
like wrestling her. She's awesome. But yeah, that was a great time period for me because I kind of needed that, and being able to show, how long I can hold this title and make it prestige and add some sort of royalty to it, and my flair to it. it was an honor to hold it that long, and I'm glad that I did.
Yeah. When you talk your career, originally you said you wanted to be a pro wrestler. So especially after all these years, being ranked 3 years back to back, PWI Women's 250, for you, what does that mean? Especially someone who loved pro wrestling. For you, how special was that?
It was awesome,
Yeah.
I my whole life I always used to collect them and I had them and to be in it. There's always these like theories that people come up with of how people pay to be in it and all
Yeah.
that. I'm like, well, I didn't pay to be in it. So I would never pay to be in something like that. I want to earn it,
Yeah.
that for me it's like knowing that I earned it for whoever's in charge of, making these decisions saw something in me, some sort of value in me. Same thing going back to holding titles. People are seeing some value in you to do that. So for me, it's not only the childhood dream, but just being at the 250 in the world. That's impressive.
Yeah. Speaking of impressive, how was the opportunity wrestling Athena?
Yeah. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Long story short, with that, I have only been to AEW once. I have not been to AEW more than once. It's crazy. But that day, in that time period, I was still kind of very depressed and just I didn't I didn't look the part. At least to me,
Yeah.
I wasn't me. I was
Okay.
very just out of it and whatever. But I got this opportunity and I made most of it. I went out there. I sold like a MFer. I whatever. I have the footage, the raw actual footage of it. Um, but sour taste and this is the business, but I remember the graphic went out for the dark match and I was like, oh my God, like yay, like it's happening. I'm finally getting my dark match, like I'm finally getting an opportunity. I'm going to be on TV, like, well, it was YouTube, but it's still
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
So I had my family like come to my parents' house and we all sat around like the couch and we were ready to watch me on TV finally, like all these years of being a fan and da da da. And I watched Dark regularly, so I knew how the layout was and a match after match after match, and I'm like, what the frig, what's going on? And then it was like the main event next, and I was just like, okay. So they just didn't air it. And
Wow.
there was nothing wrong with it. I know for a fact because I watched it 100 times.
Yeah.
I asked, the producers, like, hey, did I do good? Yeah, you sold one. Thank you. You did great. Athena, no issues. It just got scrapped. I know there was some sort of storyline with her and Mercedes and like the way they were taping things at the time. So apparently I think it was something like that. I think
Oh.
I have my theories, um but yeah, that sucked.
Yeah.
You're excited. And I remember like my whole family was just like, oh my God. And I just went in the room, cried for like 2 seconds, and I was like, that's the business, kid.
Yeah.
Like that's just how it be. And I moved on from it. And I still have not been back at AEW, so but I
Oh,
have
when
my
we
theories.
talk opportunities, I was there live. How is wrestling for TNA?
TNA is the best. If
Yeah.
I could pick somewhere that I know I would excel in, that I know that I would feel like home in, and is good for me and where I'm at would be TNA.
Nice.
TNA, the crowd is amazing. The locker room's amazing. I love Tommy Dreamer. He's been amazing to me and for me, and I love him so much. Such a good person. And it's one of those things where it's thriving right now, and there's that little portal that leads to the WWE. So
Mhm.
you never know, but wrestling for TNA has been awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited for the future of TNA. I will be going to Dallas
Nice.
this coming week, so I'm excited to see what this new era is going to be about.
Yeah. And when you talk companies, especially in your area, there's two I got to ask you that have been thriving in just a short time. The first one, how is your opportunity so far with ACW?
Yeah, ACW is amazing.
Yeah.
They had their year show, the Poughkeepsie Rumble last Saturday. They, it's perfect, and
Yeah.
that I could consider that a second home. Vic and Hale have been so good to me, and have really believed in me and pushed me, and I'm very thankful for that. It's one of those things where it's like an indie wrestler's dream. It's an indie show with names, but it's still an indie show, and but you're getting to perform in front of 3,000, 4,000 people like that. There's nothing better than that. So for me, it's a dream come true to be able to have that.
And for you, I got to say, was this the first time ever, a few shows back, you got to commentate?
Yeah, I've been on commentary
Okay.
before. And I actually enjoy doing commentary
Okay.
when I'm not a bad guy,
Yeah.
because I can actually do a solid play-by-play. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I was able to kind of express my frustrations. I instead of wrestling, I was watching. And maybe there's a reason why I wasn't at the last show. And maybe I'll come back with a vengeance.
Talking about coming back with a vengeance, another company I want to ask you about, especially people you're very familiar with, Fight Factory Wrestling. To see everything they've done in such short time, wrestling on the Jersey Shore, Chris Payne, Sturgio, being a part of Made, what has that been like for you?
Yeah, I've known these guys for 7, 8 years now.
Yeah.
I think anyone who's able to get out of the bubble and bet on themselves and kind of do something different, I admire that. I'm glad that I can be a part of that. Um, and with Made, I think there's something there. I think there's something to be told. I think we all kind of gel well together. I'm excited to see what we're able to do.
Nice. Earlier, when I asked you about some of the people who took you under the wing, you mentioned Danny Maff. So pretty recently, how was it wrestling him?
Yeah, Maff was sensei, so
Yeah.
for me it was an ultimate test for me to prove that I can hang with the big boys, like if I can wrestle and get beat up and thrown around by Dan Maff, then I can pretty much do anything. And I think that was a good stepping stone for me to kind of prove myself to everyone.
Is there been any other moments so far you consider like your biggest test?
Um, I'm trying to look at like every I'm trying to get in the mindset of every match is because
Yeah.
for a while I kind of got a little complacent, not too much, but a little bit.
Mhm.
Last 2025 was a good year for me.
Yeah.
It was a stronger year, probably the strongest I had. I wrestled Tessa Blanchard, and that was insane. I would say that was an ultimate test for me. I remember we had a really solid match. It's up on YouTube. Solid match, and I remember I came to the curtain and I just started crying because I want more of that caliber. I liked being able to step in the ring with another woman, a female who's probably one of the best female wrestlers on the planet,
Mhm.
and her test me and guide me and hang with her. It allowed me to prove, like, hey, I can do this.
When you talk about wrestling Danny Maff or Tessa, who brings the best out of Vicious Vicky?
Yeah, I could easily say Moff or Tessa.
Yeah.
I could easily say that.
When does Vicky Venuto eventually come in, dropping the Vicious?
Yeah, so I still keep the vicious because I think
Okay.
I kind of confused everybody when I did that. 7 years in, I'm just changing my name. I
Yeah.
think for me, I always hung my hat on the vicious Vicky, but I really wanted like a name. You think of NXT, like people have like names. It's very indie but unique to me.
Yeah.
Not many people do things like that. It's very just like a name. Um, but I wanted to have like an actual name. I think it's more. I don't want to say proper, but it just felt more whatever. And I used to always be the three V's, so Vivacious, Vicious, Vicky. So now I'm just Vicious Vicky Venuto. So I keep the three V's.
And I gotta ask you, you were all over social media this past month. So originally, what was the original goal with this tweet to John Cena? Was it just like to post your emotions, or what was your goal with this tweet?
Yeah, great question. So my boyfriend has a website and he's a journalist and he does press for
Nice.
WWE, TNA, whatever. He's all over the place. And he had written an article that was kind of like a farewell, and he wanted people who either worked with John Cena or loved John Cena to write a piece. He put that out, and then that Bailey had that lodestone seminar that she had done, and I was like, oh, I was like, damn, I was a little bummed, that I didn't get picked. I was like, it's all right, it happened. And then I saw that John Cena was there, and like these girls got to spend like 8 hours with him and like train with him and whatever. I'm just like, damn, like I'm like, if I could just tell this guy how I feel, like and I was like, you know what? I wrote this beautiful thing to him. I kind of want him to see it, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. But like, you know
Yeah.
what? It's too good to not put out there. So. I put it out there and I was like, I don't know if you're going to see this, but here we go. And lo and behold, it grew on my account. The
Yeah.
numbers, I was just like, oh my God, like I've never seen numbers like that. And then I'm thinking like, could he possibly see this? And then when he quote tweeted it and was like, I did see this. I'm just like, whoa. My goal was to just let this person know how I felt, and how much they mean to me, and you know me continuing my journey through personal struggles and professional struggles, like his mantra got me through it.
Nice. I'm curious, going into the new year, what is Vicious Vicky Venuto? What are you trying to do this year?
So my biggest thing is just I want to get signed, obviously.
Nice.
I think this is my year. I'm getting older, not younger. I still have a solid decade left. I'm an
Yeah.
athlete. I have an athlete's body, like athlete's mind. I'm not dead yet. Um, but yeah, I feel like going back to the John Cena thing, I feel like that helped me kind of feel seen.
Hmm.
No pun intended. I feel very
Yeah.
seen. And touching base on it, I being able to see him at his last match, um, and and thank him for that, and hug him, and him take a picture with me, and tell me that what I wrote brought him to tears. What's better than that? And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like, well, now I can't quit. Now I can't give up.
Yeah.
Like having someone like that, just notice me or whatever. So, I'm excited for TNA's future. I think I can offer a lot to TNA. I really do. NXT too. I would love to be brought into NXT, go to training and get the best training in the world and like give me like 6 months and they'll be like, oh, okay. Like, like I'm not cocky. I'm very confident because there's nothing else in my life that I've ever been this passionate about.
Yeah.
And I just need the right push. I need the right like overall training and should I say like freshening up. I need just one person to be like, you know what? Let's believe in her and let's see what we can do with this. And they'll be like, oh yeah, we should have did this a long time ago. I'm very confident in myself that there's something to me and I have so much to offer, whether it be just as a character perspective, even my brain. Um, my whole world is flooded with pro wrestling since I was very young. So I don't really know anything else. And
Yeah.
truthfully, like it's kind of scary for me to think of what my life would be like without it. Like I get scared thinking like, well, what if this doesn't work out? Then what? And I have a plan B and I have all that. I'm going to school late in life because again, I didn't go to college because I had to go to wrestling school to be a
Yeah.
wrestler. I didn't know that I could have just stayed an athlete and I could have been a wrestler. So it's a lot, but I think 2026 is gonna be really good to me. It already started off, at the end of the year, or the end of last year, really good. So
Nice. Yeah.
I'm very hopeful.
Well, Vicky, I can't thank you enough for doing this, and thank you for everything over these years. However, every interview I've done has ended the same. Now, the day you decide it's all done in wrestling, which obviously isn't happening anytime soon, but the day you decide it's all done, what do you want Vicky Venuto's legacy in pro wrestling to be?
I want my legacy to be that again, it's cliche, but I never gave up and I never quit on myself. I want it to be that, despite all the setbacks and all the hardships that we face in the business and outside the business, I was able to kind of overcome those and just stick to my guns and do what I love to do, which is wrestling and be a dreamer. I think for people, if you have a dream, no matter what it is, like just do it. Don't let anyone tell you can't do it because you're going to regret it forever. And that's
Yeah.
the whole reason why I became a pro wrestler because it's all I ever cared about. It's all I ever talked about. It's all I ever thought about. And if I didn't ever do it, I would hate myself forever for not doing it. So,
Nice. Well, Vicky, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you so much for everything over these years. I appreciate it.
of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Vicky, for doing this, and thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.
Thank you for watching this episode of Best for Business. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, because this is Best for Business.